On May 28, 2025, Wednesday, when I was on the bus on my way to work, the day has finally arrived to secure my permit to Mount Whitney after checking the online website almost every single day. Fast forward, this is me, on May 31st, Saturday, before leaving my place up to a 7 to 8 hour driving down to Lone Pine to Mount Whitney area. After that long hours of driving from the bay, I finally arrived in a small town of Lone Pine. This photo is facing toward the Whitney Porlo Road from the South Main Road just near the Elevation Sierra Adventure Store. I pulled over the car to the side and decided to take a photo of this sign that indicates how far I am from the Whitney area. At around 2:20 p.m., I've finally arrived in the Whitney area. I've decided to park the car at the Mount Whitney Ravine Walking Campground parking lot and head over to Whitney Porlo store to ask where's the exact campground for Whitney Trail. When I came out from the store, I saw this green looking lake and decided to have a photo in here. Now, after figuring out where to camp, I found a site just behind the information bulletin board, which is the site number 3 here at the Whitney Trail Campground. I went back to Ravine Campground parking lot to get the car and park it at the trail campground, and went ahead to grab the envelope and secure my camp permit for a night, and grab all my stuff from my car. At 4:15 p.m., I've already set up my tent, my sleeping pad for tonight, and making sure my headlamp and my flashlight is fully functional. After a couple minutes, I was approached by a couple and said, "Nice camping spot." They started to talk to me regarding the ascent to Mount Whitney, showing me some photos of the current conditions, tips and techniques how to approach the summit, gears and equipment, what time should I start the hike. Since it was still winter, I was asked if I have crampons and axe with me, and I said I don't. The guy said I should need those gears because when I mentioned that I am planning to take the 99 switchbacks route, which he said is not possible and it's too dangerous and risky, because the trail is all covered by snow. He advised me to go climb the chute because it's a lot safer and more secure than the 99 switchbacks. At this point, I was a bit stubborn and did not listen that I should be getting crampons and axe, and thought I can make it to the summit via 99 switchbacks because I thought it would just be more heavy if I get those, since I already have the trekking poles. He also mentioned that I need to have storage or a bear canister with me since I will be camping overnight at the trail camp. Because if there's rangers up there and ask if I have a canister and don't have it, they might ask me to turn around and go back to the parking lot. So I thought, okay, I think I will get bear canister to store the food and be safe with bears and marmot. So I ended up renting the canister for $2 for 2 days from the Whitney Porlo store. As soon as I have it, I start to pack my food that I think will be enough until Monday. At around 7 p.m., I went to the beginning of the trail to get a feel around of the area to kind of prepare myself tomorrow. I've read some information about the Whitney Trail, and there are wag bags that you can take it with you since there's no any bathroom in the hiking trail. At 7:25 p.m., went back to my tent to get an 8-hour sleep. Now, on June 1st, 2025, Sunday, at 3:30 a.m., photo taken next to the Mount Whitney Trail sign where all the hikers who were before me have started, and a hiker like me who have just started the beginning of a long hike to Mount Whitney at this day. At the beginning of the trail, you'll approach by this entrance, and on the left side, you'll see a hanging scale where you can weigh in your backpack before starting off your journey. I weighed my backpack and was around from 26 to 27 pounds. The weather at this time is cold, and walking through the dark trails was very quiet, could be slightly intimidating as you don't know what to expect and see along the way, and just relying on your headlamp and flashlight during this time. I was also using my phone on and off to check if I was on the right path. At 4 a.m., I've reached the intersection between North Fork Lone Pine Creek and Mount Whitney Trailhead, a 0.8 to 0.9 mile off from the start of the trail. A friend who joined me on this journey had decided not to continue with me because of the inability to cross the river and to face multiple river crossing along the way. My friend decided to head back down to the parking lot where we started. At this point, I'll be all by myself on this journey. And before we split apart, I took the bear canister with me and separated the food that I prepared for a 2-day journey to Summit Mount Whitney. At 4:50 a.m., I saw a tree that has an engraved rectangular shape that I believe indicates that I was on the right path on the trail. At around 5:05 a.m., the sun is starting to rise up, and seeing beautiful big pine trees and mountains on the side on the solitude state was quite nice. I've seen my first mule deer along the way, as it seemed like looking for a food to eat or might be looking for a place to stay. After going through the first 20 to 22 switchbacks, I've seen a couple along the way before hitting the log river crossing, having coffee and resting on a big boulder rock, and had a small conversation with them. Now at 5:30 a.m., before I crossed the log bridge, I took a little break and used my water filter to drink water and refill my other bottled water as well. And I was eating some energy bar to energize myself back. After successfully crossing the log bridge area, which is 350 to 400 meters away from the area where I took a little break, I've reached the Mount Whitney zone where you'll need to have a permit whether for a day hike or an overnight stay. At this point, seeing the snow on the trails and at the foot of the mountains, I thought I would need crampons and axe. I figured out to use the trekking poles to get a good grip of the trails while hiking up the snowy trail section. I've also seen again the couple that I've met before the log bridge, and they were there as well, taking photos, trying to go up to see the chute from the trail camp today. After passing through 12 to 13 switchbacks from the Whitney Zone permit sign, you'll see a trail that is going down that will lead you to a flat trail and crossing few rivers, a view of a mountain from the distance, and a log bridge. I've seen again a tree with engraved rectangular shape and 2 mule deer along the trail. Another tree with engraved rectangular shape right before entering outpost camp. At 6:45 a.m., I have arrived at outpost camp, which is about 10,400 feet elevation and roughly 3.8 miles from the Whitney Polar Trailhead. As soon as I see some tents and hikers at this campsite, I knew that this is one of the first campsites going to Mount Whitney. I was scouting around to see if there's any log bridge to cross the stream. Unfortunately, I didn't see anything, so I had to find a section where there are elevated rocks to step on and not getting my feet wet. Once I figure out the best stream to cross, I've successfully managed to go to another side and continue back to the trail. After passing through the outpost camp, another steep section to walk through again, and another river crossing to tackle. After that second river crossing, you'll see a sign that says Trail that will lead you up to a third river crossing. At this point, I decided to take another break, drink some water from this stream, and eat some energy bars while enjoying the sunshine through my face. At 7:26 a.m., I have arrived at Mirror Lake, one of the lakes that you will pass through while ascending through the trail. I've entered the trail to Mirror Lake to take a glance and take a photo of the mountain behind this beautiful lake. As I continue on and left Mirror Lake, I felt that the trail is getting steeper at this point, so I decided to take another break to relax my shoulders and legs. Now, while going through this section, I didn't see a clear trail up to the mountain, and it looks like the trail was slightly crumbled. I've passed through some hikers that are descending down and asked them the trail up to the trail camp and said just keep on hiking up and I'll see the trail up again. As soon as I'm back again on a clear trail, I've passed through some hikers that are going down and I asked them if they were able to summit to Mount Whitney, and they said, unfortunately we didn't summit because of having no crampons and axe. I thought to myself probably they were just making excuses to be able not to summit Mount Whitney. Who knows? At 8:35 a.m., this photo was taken while I was taking another break next to a river and a snow mountain background, just before Trail Meadow sign. I've met another hiker while I was taking a break and asked about summiting Mount Whitney. She's a 65-year-old woman who traveled from Florida just to hike Mount Whitney. I've asked her if it is possible to hike 99 switchbacks, and she said, it depends, but she also recommended to take the chute route because of the weather condition. She gave me a little hope when she mentioned that 99 switchbacks is possible, but I have to be really careful because of the snow. As I continued back to the trail after passing the trail meadow sign, I saw my first marmot from the distance and looks like this guy is looking for some food to eat. After seeing the marmot along the way, I took another break to rest and drink water and took a photo of this beautiful snowy mountain landscape. I continued back to the trail and started to feel the elevation. I was hiking up the stairs, and I took another break and drank water before tackling more snow slippery trails ahead of me. I slipped a couple of times on these trails, and one of my feet sucked a few times into the snowy trail. At 9:56 a.m., I took another break at this section, which I was 32 minutes away from the trail camp at about 740 meters. At 10:06 a.m., I finally reached Consultation Lake. Decided to take a little break here and enjoy the gorgeous view of the mountain and the lake, which was at that time was still covered by snow. At around 10:20 a.m., I went back to the trail to continue the hike and go through this snowy trail. At around 10:33 a.m., I knew I was getting closer to the trail camp as soon as I saw this spiky-looking mountain filled with snows at the chute from the distance. At this point, I've been hearing voices from the distance from the people that are descending down. At around 11 a.m., I saw a wooden sign that I didn't know during that time was the trail camp sign. I walked closer to it and confirmed that I have just arrived at the trail camp at an elevation of 12,000 feet. When I arrived at trail campsite, I went ahead to scout and secure a spot for me to spend the night before summiting tomorrow. Once I found a good spot to camp, I started to assemble my tent, put my backpack inside, and build a mini rock wall against the strong wind since it was extremely windy at that time. After I had settled down, I went ahead to eat my lunch. I had one bag of beef jerky, energy waffle, and a ham sandwich. At the trail camp, there's also a pond where I used to get water to drink. It was still pretty covered by some snow, and the water was cold. At around 12:30 p.m. onwards, the weather started to get pretty cloudy and dark on and off, from a hot, sunny weather temperature. I started to think, what's gonna be the weather like tomorrow, and hoping to be sunny all day, since I can't use my phone to look it up the weather because of having no signal nor gadget weather. I was hoping for a nice weather tomorrow. At around 2 p.m., after getting some rest from a long journey from the trailhead here at the trail camp, I've started to ask some hikers that are descending down from the chute if they were able to summit to Mount Whitney. Some did not because of a thunderstorm and didn't want to risk it, and some did summit all the way to the top. Most of hikers I came across at trail camp didn't recommend going to the chute without crampons and axe, and taking 99 switchbacks would just risk my life with just hiking shoes and trekking poles. I've met 3 hikers who descended down from the chute but originally started from the infamous 99 switchbacks. They were not able to summit because of the weather condition in the afternoon. One of the 3 said she thought she was gonna die from the switchbacks since the trail is all covered by snow and was too dangerous. They all said to me, go take the chute. One of them gave me snow gaiters, which was really nice, and he didn't even accept the cash I was trying to give it to him. At this moment, at around past 3 p.m., by looking at the chute, switchbacks and mountains in front of me, I thought would be impossible for me to summit Mount Whitney because of lacking of gears for snow. I didn't let the word from other people to come through my head that I wouldn't be able to summit for having no gears, but instead I insisted to myself mentally that I will successfully summit tomorrow, no matter what, and there has to be a way out there. At around 3:30 p.m., out of the blue, when I was wandering around and planning my execution to summit for tomorrow, I've seen again the couple that I've met on the trail before the log bridge and at the Whitney Zone permit area. I saw them looking at the chute from the trail camp. I waved at them and they started to notice me right away from the distance. I ran up to them and said hello and had a conversation with them again. I noticed that Rahul his crampons and axe on his backpack, and I told them that I don't have those gears and started to ask them if I can buy his crampons and axe. Luckily, I had some cash with me at that time. Rahul agreed to me and sold his axe for $120 and lent me his crampons that they rented at Elevation Sierra Adventure. I was so blessed that I've met them again before they were heading down to go back to the trailhead. The couple, so nice and kind to be able to help me out. Now that I have crampons, axe, and plus snow gears, I was feeling ecstatic and excited at this moment. It gave me confidence to climb the chute and summit Mount Whitney tomorrow. On June 2nd, 2025, Monday, has finally come to summit Mount Whitney. I woke up this morning at 3:30 a.m. to get myself prepared and to put some stuff back to my backpack. At around this time, I've seen some hikers passing the trail camp and start the ascent to the chute. I started the hike at 4:30 a.m. leaving trail camp. At around 5 a.m., I started the ascent with crampons on to the chute. But out of my curiosity, I changed my route and instead I went up to the start of the 99 switchbacks and thought it would be a shortcut. But then I started to realize that I'm getting off from the chute trail. It was a bit intimidating approaching the switchbacks since it is very steep and trail was all covered by snow. The cable wires and metal posts are not that reliable due to the snow condition. I've successfully went past the switchbacks and followed the footstep marks from other hikers going back to the chute. All I did was sidestepping coming off from the switchbacks while reaching and reconnecting back to the chute. While I was on the midsection of the chute, I met a guy named Andrew, and to my surprise, he was not wearing crampons and just relying on his axe and was just wearing running shoes to climb the chute. It was impressive. The day before the summit, I've met Tom and his dad at the trail camp and I joined their group to summit Mount Whitney. I think it would be slightly different and off if I would summit solo, so I thought joining a group would be a lot better and was able to reconnect back with them to the chute trail. The chute was a very challenging part of the journey as it is very steep and one footing mistake can lead you to go back rolling down from the mountain. At 7 a.m., we've successfully reached the top of the chute, a trail crest at 13,700 feet elevation, which is the starting point to the summit. This is me standing next to Trail Crest sign and ready to approach the Sequoia National Park. I have my crampons wrapped around the sling of my trekking poles as I didn't want to carry it using my hands while summiting. The view at the top of Trail Crest was gorgeous, stunning, and amazing. Mountains filled with snows as well as the views of the lakes from the top. At this point, we still need to hike and tackle an approximately 2.8 to 3 mile trail up to the top of Mount Whitney. I took some photos along the way as it was so gorgeous and stunning landscape views while walking up and down the trail. We've met people who were doing the PCT or the Pacific Crest Trail and some other hikers that were descending down from the top going back to the trail crest. We passed through some trails that were still covered with snow and some trails that were totally snow-free. As we were getting closer to the top, we had to climb a chute similar to the trail crest. We decided not to use crampons and relied only to our shoes, axe, and poles. After a successful climb and saw the Smithsonian House, I knew that we were just few steps away from the summit. At 09:15 a.m., we have successfully summited the top of Mount Whitney at 14,505 feet high, the highest mountain in the contiguous United States.